Welcome back to another episode of College Hockey Talk. On today's podcast, we are joined by former Boston University captain Rebbeca Leslie. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Rebbeca, and how's everything going?
Thanks for having me. It's going well. Just got back from a day full of training, so I'm kind of tired now. Excited to kind of watch some hockey and just wind down for the evening.
Yeah, and how's the whole quarantine situation been going for you so far, and what's it been like this entire pandemic for you?
Yeah, so it's obviously been a struggle. I'm sure everyone has faced their own challenges throughout the pandemic. I was in Calgary for the whole season, so I kind of came home to be with family when the world kind of started to shut down. And that's when I took some time off to kind of just refresh after the season. And then I got back into training. I have a pretty good setup of a gym here at my place in Ottawa. So I'm just back in training, back onto the ice. It was slow for a while, but it kind of seems like things are back to almost, well, not close to being normal, but normal in a sense that I'm back on the ice.
Well, that's good to hear. And you grew up in Ontario. How did you start playing hockey? Since Canada, everyone plays hockey, it seems like.
Yeah, it's definitely a very popular sport here. But I kind of always just did what my brother did, and he plays hockey and is 2 years older than me. So he started, and then I kind of followed in his footsteps. We had an outdoor rink in the backyard when we were growing up, so we definitely spent a lot of hours out there together when we were younger. So that's kind of where I started. I played mostly with the boys growing up, and then kind of transitioned to the girls game in high school. So yeah, I would definitely say my brother was one of my biggest influences. Yeah.
Now, did you have a favorite particular player growing up, and if so, who was it?
I really loved Cassie Campbell. I thought she was awesome. She was a great mentor for women's hockey, a great leader for Canada. So she was kind of my idol growing up. Obviously, Hayley Wickenheiser was another one. She kind of spearheaded the women's hockey game in Canada and was like the first to accomplish many great things. As I got more competitive in the sport and became kind of more aware of the female hockey players in Canada, Marie Philip Cohen became one of my huge role models, and she went to BU. And we spent 1 year there together. So she was one of my role models, and I was lucky enough to kind of watch her for the year and kind of do whatever she did on the ice to try to be as best as I could.
What was it like to play with her, and what was she like as a person as well?
She is the most humble person, and still with the national team, I've been around her for the past few years, and I think that she's one of the best female hockey players to ever play the game, but you would never know how good she is or how famous she is or how many big-time goals she's scored. She's just like a normal person who's always willing to talk to the younger girls. I would definitely consider her as one of the best leaders I've ever been around. But yeah, so just being able to watch her for my freshman year was awesome, and I kind of just did what I could to follow in her footsteps and try to take some of her characteristics and her leadership qualities into my play and over the years at BU.
Now, before Boston University, you played in the PWHL for Ottawa. What was that experience like, and how did it help you prepare for college hockey?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if you know like the geographics of Ontario, but Ottawa is about 5 hours from Toronto, and that's where that league is based out of. So we would spend almost every weekend traveling to Toronto. So I missed quite a bit of high school. I would be kind of on the road Friday afternoon, Friday morning, and then we'd play Saturday and Sunday, and then we'd drive back Sunday night. So it was definitely a really busy time for me and my teammates. While at the same time, you're trying to stay on top of school, you're trying to begin talking to colleges, and then you want to stay healthy and play good. So it was definitely a really busy time for me, but I had such amazing teammates, and those are kind of the girls that are my best friends still. So yeah, it was a really good experience for me.
You also had the opportunity to participate in the 2014 Women's Under-18 World Championships. Talk about that experience, and what was it like to win gold for your country in that tournament?
Yeah, whenever I get the chance to wear the maple leaf, it's the biggest honor ever. I grew up idolizing the girls who played in the Olympics, who played in the World Championships, who got to wear the maple leaf. And so the first time that I was able to play for Team Canada was a dream come true for me. The World Championships were amazing. We went to Budapest, Hungary, and that's where they were. And the country is so beautiful, and I had never really traveled that much to Europe. So being with Team Canada was a first-class trip. And then obviously to top it off, coming back with the gold was amazing. And just realizing that all the hard work I put in when I was younger and over the years kind of finally paid off was, it felt like a great accomplishment.
And talk about your recruiting process and why did you choose to go to BU?
Yeah, it's a funny question. I get this a lot, but I actually was very late in my commitment to BU. You see these days girls are committing in the 8th grade and 9th grade, and it's so young. But I actually didn't commit until my junior year in November. My senior year in November. Yeah, my senior year in November. So I was really late. But I was always told, I got some advice from older girls just to take your time through it. If a school is really interested in you, they'll wait till you make a decision. And I was lucky enough that I had the ability to kind of just wait and weigh my options. So I took my official visits having not committed yet. So I went on a couple visits back to back. And then that's when I decided that BU was the school for me. I spent a lot of time in Boston over the years for summer hockey, and I love the city. I love the sports fans, the atmosphere that there is around the city, just how the city revolves around sports. It's also a great city because of so many universities and students, and it's always kind of buzzing. So I like that about Boston. And then I was kind of deciding whether or not I was going to go Ivy League or go to a scholarship school. And ultimately, I really wanted the best of both worlds, where I could get an amazing education, but also play a really high caliber hockey and play in a well-known program. So Boston was kind of the best of both worlds. And yeah, I would do it all over again. So it was a good decision for me.
Now, what was the biggest adjustment you had to make to playing college hockey?
I think definitely the routine and just the intensity of the daily grind was one of the biggest things for me. Obviously in high school you train every day and you practice, but it's just different when you're on your own and you have to make sure you're eating right and you're getting the treatment you need and you're staying up in your classes and focusing on hockey as well. Right, we are student athletes, so the schooling is really important. So when you have a big day of classes and you know you have practice later, it can be a little bit stressful. So just staying on top of things like that, I found that once I got into probably Christmas time, my freshman year, I got down to the swing of things. And then in terms of like on ice, it's definitely just a lot faster and the girls are bigger. You're playing against girls 4 years older than you, and you're probably only used to playing against people your age. So I would definitely say the speed and the intensity of the games would be the biggest kind of change from high school.
And in your freshman season, you won the Hockey East championship against Boston College, who was one of the top-ranked teams at the time. What was it like to win that championship, and what did it mean to you being your biggest rival?
Yeah, the rivalry between BU and BC is so fun. I think that's one of the coolest things about going to BU also. Both of our schools are just on the same street, Comm Ave, so we are constantly seeing people from BC. The games against them are always super intense, and they had an amazing team that year. Like they had Carpenter and Skarupa and Keller and Flanagan, all these girls who are now Olympians, and we also had a really good team, and our seniors kind of led the way for us. That Hockey East championship was so fun to play in. It was such an intense game, and even the game before in the semifinals, we played Northeastern, and I think that once we won that game, we kind of knew that we had some good momentum coming for us. And then our captain, Marie Philippoulian, kind of just took it over for us. That's when you know that she's going to shine. She's ready for those big moments, and I think that, she led the way for us. So it was really fun to capture that in our first year.
You then got to play in your first national tournament experience when you played Wisconsin in the semifinals. Even though your team lost, what did you take away from that experience?
Yeah, that game was also a really big learning experience for me as a player. I had never really played in the crowd that big. I remember going on the ice for warm-ups, and LeBron, the rink that the Wisconsin Badgers play at, was packed, and the fans were going nuts, and it was such a good experience. And a hockey, it's like a nice women's hockey experience, and I feel like sometimes in our game we don't get that many fans, and so just stepping on the ice, like I was in awe of how many people were there. It was so cool. I don't think that we came out in the first period as quick as we should have, and I think that kind of is the reason why we ended up not winning. Our first period didn't help us set us up for success, but that game was so fun to play in. It was also really eye-opening for me just how quickly your 4 years can go by and how quickly a season goes by. And so when at the end of each year our coach kind of goes through the seniors and he says a little speech about each of them and what they brought to the table in their 4 years and the type of person they are. So just seeing that and the culture of the program and the commitment the girls have made for the past 4 years, I think is something that I won't forget about either.
Now, then in your sophomore season, you lost in the hockey semifinals against BC again. What was the difference between that game your freshman year versus the one your sophomore year, and what emotions were you feeling after losing that big game?
Yeah, it's actually pretty funny. I have a kind of a funny story about that game. I was extremely, as a freshman and sophomore, that class took me under their wing. So I was extremely close with all the girls in that senior class that year. So it was really emotional for me to see that their college career was ending, and we were kind of in a hole. It was I don't remember the exact score, maybe 5-2, but it was one of those games where you kind of knew you weren't going to come back from it. And it was in the third period. We were still playing, rolling the lines, trying to win, obviously, and I just started to tear up on the bench, and my coach looked at me. He's like, "Rebecca, are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm not hurt or anything. I'm just sad for the girls that are going to be done their college careers." And so I always think about that, and some of my teammates always bug me about it because they were seniors and it's their last college game, and they're looking down the bench, and I'm a sophomore crying because they're about to be done. So it's just a funny little story. And we also, another thing that made me kind of emotional in that game was Sarah LaForte, one of our assistant captains, and one of the people that I looked up to a lot at my time at BU. We had stalls beside each other for the first 2 years I was there. She broke her leg, she broke her leg in pregame warm-ups off the ice before the semifinals. So just knowing that she couldn't play and kind of do her part to help us out was really upsetting. But I just think that BC had our number that year, and they came out they had another really, really good team. But definitely that was one of the tougher games in my 4 years too.
Then in your junior season, you got to host the Hockey East tournament. What was it like playing in front of your home fans during the semifinals?
Yeah, it was awesome. So my freshman year, we were in Hyannis, and that was kind of a fun experience for us because we got to travel, and then the next year was at Merrimack, and then finally to have it at BU. It was kind of exciting for us all year. We were like, we got to make sure that we play hard all year so that we're in the tournament when it's being hosted at BU. So we kind of pushed all year to make sure that we were in the tournament and able to compete for the Hockey's championship. And I think that was one of the games that we had the most fans in my 4 years. The band was on our side. All of our family and friends were there. So it was really a good experience in that sense. Obviously, losing is never fun, but for a lot of those seniors, it was their last game, and they were able to play it at home. So that's kind of a good memory for them.
Yeah, and you did lose that semifinals game against Northeastern. What do you think went wrong in that game, in your opinion?
Oh, got me thinking about these games. That game, I remember, was a really close game. I remember that we took a penalty late in the game, and that kind of, I think we were down by 1 goal. Maybe we took a penalty that was kind of maybe a bad call if you think back to it. But I just remember that we never gave up, and we were kind of a grittier team that year. We didn't have as much offensive talent as we would have wanted, or we weren't putting up as many goals as we would have liked to. But I definitely know that we battled until the last buzzer in that game. That's mostly what I can remember. Is I can remember getting a tough bounce at the end of the game, but obviously playing in front of our band for the last time for those seniors is a memory for them.
And coming into your senior year, you were named captain. How did that feel to get that honor, and what type of leadership did you want to bring to that year's Terriers team?
Yeah, being named captain was one of my biggest honors at BU. I when I went into BU, I wanted to do whatever I can to watch the leaders that I had around me and kind of take something from each of them. So when I think about the captains that I had in Marie Philip Flynn and Kayla Tatino and Dakota Woodworth and Alexis Crosley and Natalie Flynn, I think of little things that they did each day. So whether it was including your teammates or being the hardest worker or being humble and maybe being the person who brings a freshman in and makes them feel comfortable. So those are kind of things that I wanted to do. So yeah, I definitely took a little bit of each of them. And I was lucky to have such great leaders. Still, these are the people that I can go to today and get advice from in my life and my hockey career and stuff. So, but for me, I just wanted to be someone who was known for her work ethic as a leader and someone that did whatever it took, whether it was in the classroom, on the ice, or off the ice. I wanted to be someone that my teammates looked up to.
And you got to play in Arlington, Virginia, your senior year. What was that experience like, and what was anything cool that you got to do when you were down there?
Yeah, I think we went to a Capitals game.
Oh, that's cool.
So that was pretty fun. Yeah, and it was Thanksgiving, so we did a nice big dinner. Coach took us out, and his family was actually in town. So yeah, that was really cool. Again, I think we played Wisconsin and Mankato maybe. So those are two teams that we don't play very often. So it was fun to see some new competition, play in a new area, and yeah, kind of be together over Thanksgiving with a team.
And talk about what it's like to play in the Beanpot. Even though you never won one, just talk about those games and that just an experience in general.
Yeah, the Beanpot is something, it's out of this world. I mean, it's hard to explain to someone who didn't go to a school in Boston or who doesn't really understand what it is. Even watching it this year on TV, I watched one of the boys' games with a bunch of friends, and they were like, I don't understand the hype. I don't understand the excitement over the game. But you kind of have to be in the city to understand that the city basically shuts down for these 2 days, and you can watch hockey all day. And the Beanpot is so fun because it's kind of like the kings or the queens of the city. So you've got Harvard, Northeastern, BU, BC. And obviously those are teams that we play quite frequently in league play, but there's a different intensity when the Beanpot's at stake. And obviously not having won it myself, but being around the men's team when they won it, and talking to my former teammates when BU won it 2 years ago. It's just such an exciting time of year. And yeah, we had some really tight games when I was playing in the Beanpot. So just being able to even say that I played for a Beanpot was really cool.
And you lost your quarterfinal series to Maine, your final game, and that was your final game as a Terry. You were very close to winning it. You lost in overtime. Just describe the emotions you were feeling after such a tough loss and knowing that you played your final game in college.
Yeah, that weekend was really emotional. Obviously, we were playing the 3-game series against Maine in Maine, so it was my first time in 4 years playing that first Hockey East playoff away from Walter Brown Arena, so out of Boston. So that was different in itself. And then the first game we went into Maine and we lost. So we had to come back the next day. It was do or die. So we were raring to go and getting ready, and we ended up winning the second game. And then we went into the third game with a lot of momentum. And I definitely think that we did play a good game. We just kind of folded a bit towards the end of it. We were up 3-0 with, I think, like 10 minutes left. So I think we really should have won that game, but for some reason we just couldn't hold the lead. Maine is a really gritty, hardworking team. They do not quit. And Brooke Stacy, actually a teammate of mine for Team Canada, scored 3 goals in that game, and that just proves like the talent that they do have and the hard work that they put into each game. They just worked hard and they just did not give up. And I think that maybe we got a little too comfortable with our lead. And then that overtime, I remember I was actually on the ice when the goal was scored. And so that was obviously really emotional. that didn't really hit me until I got back to campus and I realized, like, wow, that's it. That's my 4 years. And obviously it's really upsetting and sad, but yeah, I think back my time at BU and I wouldn't change it. Obviously a national championship or a league championship here and there would have been nice, but I made such amazing teammates, and I love the coaching staff that I had. So yeah, it was a 10 out of 10 experience for me.
And you also got to play with the Patty Kazmaier finalist and Victoria Bach. What was she like as a teammate? And just, do you think she got snubbed for that award?
So Bach and I actually have been teammates for a long time. We played Team Canada together, Team Ontario together, and we were actually roommates for 4 years in a row at BU. So we're really close, good friends, and we still are with the national team now, so we still see each other quite often. She is such a talented player. She's small, but she's fierce, and she will make the big defenseman look silly with her hands and her speed. She's probably one of the fastest skaters you'll ever see, and it's so deceiving because she's just so little, and then all of a sudden she's gone. Yeah, so I was lucky to play with her my senior year. Her and I had some really good chemistry. I think that, like, whenever one of us scored, the other one assisted, and vice versa. So that was pretty fun. Yeah, she just sees the ice so well and works really, really hard. So I was lucky to play with her. In terms of Patty Kazmaier, where, like, she definitely it was so fair for her to be in the running. I think she had such an outstanding season. It's too bad that she didn't end up getting the award, because I know how hard she works, and I see how hard she works off the ice and on the ice. So that was really upsetting for us, but just to be nominated is such an honor.
And looking back at your time at BU, what's your favorite road arena you ever got to play in?
Oh, favorite road arena. I would probably say UNH, because I love, like, just how big the ice is. I think that is really good for my type of style of play. Speed and kind of quickness is kind of what I try to play with. So having that extra space is awesome. And also they just have a really, I guess it's not a really cool tradition where they throw a fish on the ice for every first goal against. And obviously you never want the other team to score on you, but I just thought it was always so funny when you see this fish being thrown on the ice. And that's when you're a freshman, you don't really even, like, no one really tells you what's going to happen, but then all of a sudden you see a fish on the ice, so it's pretty funny. Another road rink that I liked, obviously with playing Wisconsin was fun. I really did like Providence rink. It's kind of dark and gray, just because the seats in it are so gray and white, but I always found it's a nice little trip. You get out of the city, you play a new team, kind of not the northeastern BC schools. Yeah, and their rink is a good size, and it was always kind of loud and fun.
And looking back at your time at BU, what was the most memorable thing you look back on as your most fondest memory, I guess?
Oh, there's so many great memories at BU. But honestly, looking back, I think of my teammates and my friends, and just when we're all together, not even the hockey necessarily, but just being able to see them every single day. When you get out of college, you don't realize the real world is so different. Being able to just walk to my teammate's dorm because they live a floor above me, or being able to just text someone and be like, hey, do you want to get lunch? So those are some of the things that I miss. I still keep in contact with so many of my teammates at BU, and they're my closest friends. So it's hard now not being able to see them as much as I would want. But yeah, definitely the friendships and the competitiveness of the program day in and day out is stuff that I miss most about BU.
And after college, you played in the CWHL for the Calgary Inferno. What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, playing in the CWHL was awesome. The Inferno was filled with Olympians from Finland and Japan and the US and Canada, so I played with some of my idols. And it was so different than college. It was almost like you go from high school to college to the CWHL. You're constantly taking these steps up. Playing for the Inferno was awesome. We had such a good team that year. just being able to get on the ice every day with these girls, I just felt like my game got a lot better. It was very physical, but yet I think the league was filled with so much skill, so it was really fun to play for the Inferno.
Now, you're in the PWPHPA, right?
Yeah.
So I just want to ask, I want you to tell our listeners what that league is and what made you want to play there now.
Yeah, so after the CWHL folded, we kind of took it as an opportunity to form this organization called the Professional Women's Hockey Players Association, PWHPA. And so that's just kind of an organization for us to continue to play while hopefully growing the game until a viable league or a sustainable league is an option for us. And so we come together and we have certain hubs across Canada and the U.S., Boston, Toronto, Montreal, Calgary, and Minnesota. And so it's an opportunity for us to keep training, keep playing, but also one of our main goals is to fight for a league for the younger generation. I think that it's oftentimes unnoticed how little media coverage and funding and stuff we have in the women's game. So hopefully one day a little girl can dream of playing in the women's professional league like the boys are dreaming of playing in the NHL. So that's kind of what our goal is to kind of raise awareness, create a fan base, and get the idea of women's hockey out there.
Now, what are your goals and expectations for this league that you're in now?
So it's not so much of a league, but an organization. So we're just looking to hopefully get the financial support. So we're obviously, and then eventually get an opportunity to form a league. Obviously, we don't expect to make millions of dollars like the boys do, but just to be able to play full-time professionally and not have to work. When I was playing in the CWHL, I would work a full-time job, go to practice in the morning, work the day, go to bed, go to practice, work. So it was very taxing, and then travel on the weekends. Oftentimes we're missing work for practice or games. So just a league where all the players in the league can be hockey players. And so they don't have to go and do their teaching job all day, but so that they can focus on the one thing, being hockey.
And now we're in the non-hockey segment of the podcast where I ask you some non-hockey questions. And my first question is, what was your favorite thing about Boston besides that isn't hockey related?
Ooh, getting a nice lobster and clam chowder.
That's very good. And what is your favorite TV show?
Right now I'm really into Selling Sunset, but I love Grey's Anatomy.
If you could have lunch with anyone in the world, who would it be and why?
Oh, if I could have lunch with anyone in the world. Wow. I would probably have lunch with, oh my gosh, that is such a tough question. I would probably have lunch with maybe Serena Williams. I think that she's so cool, and she's such a pioneer for women's sports. So I would say Serena Williams and like Billie Jean King. She's also an idol of mine, so them two would be amazing.
What's your biggest pet peeve?
My biggest pet peeve is when people are late. I'm always usually 5 minutes early, so if someone's straggling in late, that really bugs me.
Well, hopefully I wasn't late. I try to be early for all these interviews. So.
No, I wasn't that early.
Now, what's your ideal vacation spot?
I'm a rest and relaxation type of vacationer, so I love to just be on the beach or by a pool in the hot weather and just relaxing.
Now, back to some hockey questions now. Have you ever had the chance to go back to BU after you've graduated? And what do you think about the team now and what expectations you have for them going forward?
Yeah, so I've actually been back to BU every year since I've graduated. I went back for the alumni weekend for a couple of years in a row. And then I guess I've only been graduated for 2 years. So my first year I went back to the alumni game, and then last year, actually, at Christmas time, I was lucky enough to go and spend a month training there over December, January break. So that was really fun for me to get back there with the girls and kind of get back into that routine of training and playing competitively. We had a break with our season, so I went there to get on the ice with them. I still have so many friends there, so it was good to reconnect with them. I think that the U's program is headed in the right direction. They have such good goaltending and a really big freshman class coming in, which obviously can have its challenges and bring challenges forward because there's just so many new faces. But yeah, I definitely think that they've got such good leadership in Jesse Comfer and Nara Elia, Kenna Parker. So people like that are really going to lead the way for them. So I'm expecting big things coming up for them.
Now, what should be done to help grow women's hockey here in the U.S.?
Definitely just bringing awareness at the grassroots level, of making sure that little girls are going into hockey and realizing that it is an option for them, and that they can, whether they play professionally or not, having the option of getting a scholarship and playing for university is such a great accomplishment. So I would just say making sure that the number of young girls that play hockey continues to increase.
Now, another question about helping something improve is, what should we do as a podcast to improve, and what can I do as an interviewer to improve as well?
Yeah, I think it's definitely great that you're having me on the show, but just continuing to talk to female hockey players and having them tell their stories. I think that it not only helps increase our brand, but it helps make people more aware of who's out there and kind of what their story is. Each player has a different experience, and so just making our names more well known is I think what will help the women's game continue to grow.
Now, is there any shout-outs you'd like to make to any former teammates, friends, or family members?
We'll just shout out BU Terriers. Yeah, I definitely miss my time at BU, and such a great experience. And yeah, so shout out to Coach DeRocher. He's the best.
Well, thank you so much, Rebecca, for coming on. I wish you all the best in the future. Stay safe and go Terriers.
Sweet. Thanks so much for having me.
Have a nice day.
Thanks.